Okay, so I had a little conversation with Ian Eisenberg of Uncle Ike's in Seattle on different friends and different internet friends page, Tony and Haskett Mills. We have this public conversation. As you can see, it's public there, according to the Facebook privacy settings from November 24th at 4:10 a.m. And she talks about this new OK program from Uncle Ike's, how Uncle Ike's is now weeding out different cannabis products that have pesticides or other chemicals in it. I thought that, was a good thing, and I praised him for it. But the problem is that I've wrote about Uncle Ike's greedy business practices in the past, and I don't believe this is about virtue or about the protection of consumers as much as it is about the protection of his brand name and his assets and his net worth, which I go on here at the complexity of this to show. Now, back and forth with Ian, we talked about his business practices, how he's used the I-502 law to weed out competition and to sue other people. He even opened up a arcade to prevent one of his competitors from opening up. And so we talked about that, and then at the end he deleted his comments, some of them, and it made me look like I was talking to myself. So I recorded it, and I took a screenshot of it and a screen recording of it, and I wanted to just go on and kind of illustrate this conversation. Now you can read it here for what it is, at least for what's left of it, and then I'll go back to where my browser was still open, where his comments were still available before he deleted them, and I'll fill in the blanks. So I said, hey, I think this is more about, the money rather than the plant. He makes it sound like he's all about the quality of the product. I disagree. I think it's about his brand, that he's trying to sell his pot businesses for $50 million. This is from king5.com, and I'll put the links in the description so you can see those. That this isn't just my take on it. This isn't just my evaluation. Other people, other news sources have reported on this. He says, what does it even mean to be about the plant? We sell the best, cleanest, most tested, and cheapest pot in Seattle. Sorry if I have no idea what the heck you're talking about. Guilty as charged. Let's see. No, I didn't. Again, what is your point? Someone asked. Oh, he's saying he didn't get his $50 million. He says, Ike's in another store would sell theirs for, and we threw out a number. Obviously, no one was rushing to throw cash at us, but so what? Are you saying that stores about the plant are somehow better? If so, please explain. Well, I'm just saying that this, I'm pointing out the greed factor here. This is what I-502 set up, and you can see that's what I said here. I said, we'll applaud you for doing your best to test the products and sell the cleanest products, etc. The point is less about you and your business and more about the I-502 system in general. It's a greedy, monopolistic system that replaced cottage cannabis enthusiasts with greedy businessmen who don't know the first thing about the plant. Very, very few of the multi-gazillionaire cannapreneurs have even grown cannabis. Anyway, you can read it. You can go back and read it at another time. In fact, actually, I go back to it here and I reiterate what I said because Tony Ann Haskett Mills asked me, what am I talking about? What does it have to do with business, with his business and testing products? I said, I already explained it, Tony, and you can read what I had to say about it years ago. Read the post just above yours. I said, we'll applaud you for doing your best to test the products and sell the cleanest products, etc. The point is less about you and your business and more about the I-502 system in general. It's a greedy, monopolistic system that replaced cottage cannabis enthusiasts with greedy businessmen who don't know the first thing about the plant. And let me go to the rest of it here. I'm actually having to re-narrate this because it didn't pick up my voice. I said very, very few of the multi-gazillionaire cannapreneurs would ever put money into an initiative for decriminalizing the plant and letting people home grow. I said, I actually defended you against the gentrification claims that people were protesting you about. Let's see. And I said, and any good and even decent businessman or woman has it in his or her best interest to test the quality of their product and sell the very best. For years, people have protested outside Uncle Ike's store because people have privately tested the quality of his products, and it has more than once turned up pesticides. So he is applying some CYA. It's a good business move. she said it had nothing to do with the topic. I said, I disagree. It is directly to do with the topic. It may not be the response you're looking for, but it definitely addresses the topic. I said, this is why Uncle Ike's test now. It's because of years of people protesting the dirty products in his store. He didn't start out with self-scrutiny. Scrutiny. That came after others called him out. And this is from the Seattle Times. There's multiple doctors involved in this. Steve Sarich, another activist, they were protesting him since 2016. And so just in November of 2018, he releases this Ike's OK thing where he tests the product. And I said, that's from 2016. I said, after all those years of protest about his dirty products, he would be dumb not to test them unless he wanted to go out of business. So he says, good article. This is Ian Eisenberg. He says, good article. Thanks for posting it. I might as well point out that the vast majority of I-502 is made up of small businesses. I can think of only two that might be considered otherwise. The original drafters of the initiative were smart to draft language ensuring the cottage industry aspect of it. This year will be telling if outside ownership is allowed. I have mixed feelings on the issue. I have always been lost on the idea of the culture. Pot seems to be universally embraced once the stigma is knocked down. By the way, the lottery system sure didn't work for me, and we're in agreement over home grow. From a personal and business perspective, allowing home grow is the correct thing to do. And I like that comment. That was good. He says, then, one protest from Steve Sarich counts as years of people protesting. Seriously? You get that we aren't producers or processors, right? I happen to agree with Steve on the issue and got tired of waiting. So we decided to do something about it ourselves. Then Jim McRae here, and I'm going to let this speak for itself. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I don't know who Jim McRae is. He's endorsing this. He says he wouldn't have put his name to it if he didn't support Uncle Ike or Ian Eisenberg. I suspect, I can't confirm, but I think he's on Ian's payroll. He thinks that he has clout. I don't know. Maybe he does, but I've never heard of him. But he did write a good write-up here. Regarding Uncle Ike's OK program, I have been involved in it from a very early point when it was an idea that came... Oh, geez. Let's see. Anyway, I'll just let that stand for what it is. I'll post a link to this conversation in the comments. It may or may not be deleted. Some of it already has. That's why I'm recording this. And yeah, you can go here to the Seattle Times article. I'm going to pop this open to show the names that were behind this, because I think it's important, that he's saying that it was only Steve Sarich protesting, when that is clearly not true. It was far more than just Steve. Oh, geez, let's see here. There were two doctors involved. Anyway, he goes on. Jim McRae says, he called me up and asked me if I might be interested in helping to design a program that did testing off the shelves in an unbiased and meaningful way. I asked a few questions back that were in part probes to figure out where he was coming from. My takeaway was that Ian and his staff truly do care about their customers and the quality of their products they offer for sale. Further, that they had been paying attention to some of the work I and others have been pushing on a sorry state of the LCB oversight and the Q&A and the potency testing in the industry. This is not a CYA move, as you purport. It's caring and responsible action to a situation that Uncle Ike's leadership recognized and wanted to change. One story, when we were planning what steps would be taken when a product failed, Ike's OK testing, there were some concerns about how suppliers would view the program and some discussion about if the public would be informed of the negative results. There were some differences of opinion which led to quick in-person meeting with the core planning group. It took less than 5 minutes to get a consensus agreement that, in spite of the negativity that might be rained upon the stores, that, let me just see here, what does this say? And it's stated charged with sourcing products and, yeah. I'm just narrating. Like I said, I actually made this video earlier. It had no sound, so I have to go back and fill in the sound so I can post this so other people can see the back and forth discussion here, part of which was removed. the products and interacting with suppliers. It was the right thing to do. Not only pull failed products from the shelves immediately, but also inform Ike's customers and anyone in the public that wishes to look at the program webpage which products failed and which products passed. Of course, the suppliers are also informed about the failure and given the opportunity to post their position regarding it. During that meeting, I saw a brave and decent group of people embracing the right thing, or doing the right thing, right for customers, even though doing so could be problematic with them both operationally and in terms of relationships of certain suppliers. This is the kind of integrity that I would like to see more often in the world, which seems to be on the decline. I would not allow my name to be associated with Ike's OK program if I did not believe it was doing good. Ian and his team have allowed flexibility necessary to design a program that is already making things better, not only for discerning consumers that shop at Uncle Ike stores, but also consumers across the state. Anyone with a browser can go to ikes.com/OK and see the results. Consumers can look, wholesalers can look, our other stores can look, even regulators if they can first figure out how to use a web browser. I've already heard some stores pulling product from their shelves that have failed Ike's OK testing. I have also heard of stores that are not doing so. Ian and his team are stand-up people. Were I to shop in a regulated store for something other than randomly selected samples on their way for testing, as things stand now, I would shop at Uncle Ike's. Anyway. And then I say, I will have to disagree, and we can, of course, agree to disagree. I have only a few things left to say. So as far as this being about the consumer or not profit, I do not see that. As for the testing being voluntary, yes, of course, after much protesting, not just by Steve Sarich, but also there was a few doctors, were there not? I would say any wise business would do the same, as I said earlier. Now, the reason why I said this is about profit and not the consumer, so many reasons. For Ian Eisenberg to go balls in on his competition like he has, and for the $50 million price he is putting on the business shortly after opening the store. I mean, come on, dollar. There was an article, there was this article of Ian suing multiple of his competition and playing hardball so much to even open up an arcade across the street from one of his competitors so that they would have to move. And that's in the Seattle Times, and I'll put the link in the description. I said, cheap tricks, underhanded lawyer tactics, as well as a large price tag on a newly opened business. This tells me that it is about profits and brand name and not about the consumers. I have not yet once been to an I-502 store, and in fact, after living in Seattle for 13 years and raising my kids there, when I-502 passed, I left Washington State. I have been back dozens of times to visit friends and family, and instead of going to these terrible money-driven I-502 shops, I hit up the black market for my meds because I know the growers that I go to care about their product. Anyway, like I said, we can agree to disagree. Ian, please don't sue me. He very well might. This guy, he's sued a lot of people in his life. And he's got a lot of freaking money to show for it. Using laws and tricky little tactics to undercut people or weed them out of the business or, threaten them, basically. And so that doesn't show Ian's response or my response to Ian. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to refresh the page, which I didn't have my internet turned on. So I'll turn on my internet. I'm going to go ahead and refresh again. And I want to show where my response is to Ian, and then his comment's not there, so it looks like I'm talking to myself. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in the blanks where his comment is because I have it open on a different browser. So if I refresh this, and you can see down here below, I replied to, I said, Ian Eisenberg, it is in the article, disagree with the points made, take it up with Seattle Times. I posted many sources that rebut your objections, such as, quote, the only one protest by Steve Sarich. Not true. Certainly not only Steve, and several doctors were also involved in those protests. As for opening an arcade and suing your competition, you were swinging the hammer of a nonsense law to, quote, weed out your competitions, pun intended, when yes, when your competitor was about to open, the article says you blocked them by opening up an arcade using I-502 laws, which disallows cannabis stores to open near such a facility. And when your competitor had twirly signs, you sued. Just petty money grubbing tactics to inflate your net worth, in my honest opinion. It is just the laws under 502 suck, and you exploit them to hurt other people's businesses. If your product is good and your service is good, that should be enough, without having to exploit dumb laws to hurt your competitors. Now, he deleted his comment, and there's several others there that makes it look like he's deleted other of his comments. It looks like I'm talking to myself, where, in fact, he and I have gone back and forth for a while. You know, and this is the comment that he left that he then deleted right here. Oh, Rich, did you read the post, 50 million? Did you read the article? Did you? Suing multiple competitors? Where did you get this? I happily sued Ponder because they were breaking the rules and the LCB wouldn't act to enforce them. I have no issue taking action when I feel the LCB is letting us down. An arcade? Yes, Rucka's opened up an arcade and I opened up an arcade. I guess there's a reason. I am still in business and you felt the need to leave Washington because I-502 passed. Yes, there is a reason, because I-502 really sucked. I have orthopedic implants in my legs. I get cluster headaches. You know, I use cannabis for medical usage. I never made a dime off cannabis since I was 19. I mean, that's been 22 years ago. I've never sold a bag of cannabis. I never sold a seed. You know, I wasn't making money off cannabis. I was buying good homegrown cannabis from people that I trusted, and then this market screwed it all up. And for him to go in and sue people about their signs, I mean, he's pushed the limits on his signs. He's had regulators crack down on him too. So he's not against, you know, breaking the rules. He's just against other people doing what he has done. So he's going to go snitch on them. I mean, in any context, he would be a snitch because he goes and reports his competition and he, you know, drives them out with laws and regulations that are in I-502, which I honestly think are unfair and unmoral and absolutely monopolistic in nature. Like, it hurts so many small businesses, and then only the big businesses with lots of money can thrive in that. You know, they can't even enter the market without like a $5,000 application fee to a lottery, which they may not even get a license if they're not picked. I mean, that's how this lottery worked back in, what was it, 2013. You know, you had to pay $5,000, and if you didn't get picked, you still didn't get your $5,000 back. You know, it was, basically a donation to the state coffers, no ifs, ands, or buts, whether you got a license or not. So, I mean, there's that. That's $5,000 would be really hard for most small businesses to come up with if it was, you know, most likely going to be a loss, since so few people were picked to be in the industry. You know, I mean, out of all the people that applied, like 10% of them were picked. So 90% of them roughly, and this isn't a number that I can say with faith, but I'm pretty sure it was very high. A number of people didn't get a license, but had to pay that $5,000 fee, that application fee. So anyway, I mean, I was just pointing out, and this is probably why he deleted it, is because he admitted to being a snitch. I just don't have any respect for snitches. So that's all I got to say about that.